In this day and age where Disney is making stuff like this and that, it's nice to take a trip down memory lane and rewatch some of the old classics. Like I rewatched Bambi a few days ago.
Your mother can't be with you anymore. Hey.
But there were also times when Disney was just unfiltered. Yeah, pure nightmare fuel. It was so good that they managed to do it with dinosaurs. What do you get when you give a T-Rex steroids and put horns on its head? You get Disney's Carnotaurus, massive red abominations capable of spreading fear in the hearts of every dinosaur, even the sauropods. Kills in this movie were leaning more towards the PG-13 side. Some of the shots we see these things tearing the flesh off of their victims and eating it in the background. A scene that would make any of the creators of Disney now just pass out. So in a world of spaced out Snow Whites and controversial Ariels, it's a breath of fresh air rewatching some of the movies like Disney's Dinosaur. In this video I'll be taking a look at the Red Menaces and what makes them one of, if not the most unique dinosaur villains in cinema history. But just before we do that, less than 20% of you guys who watch these videos are not subscribed. How do you expect me to pay off the mortgage? That was a lie, I don't own a house, yet. But it still would make your boy happy and allow him to continue pumping out videos like this, so hit the button. And join the Discord in the description. I think it's been up for a month or a little less and we're already over 500 members, so if you like anything prehistoric, you're gonna like it here. You could even share and compare your art with fellow members. Alrighty, I think that's a long enough promotion, let's get on with the video. Disney's Carnotaurus is much larger than its real life counterpart, but even if a real Carnotaurus was somehow the same length or height as Disney's Carnotaurus, they still would be much lighter. Disney's version is much more robust and has the shape of a T-Rex. As a matter of fact, that's what they were supposed to be in the original movie. Before they scrapped it, the villains of the movie were meant to be T-Rexes that could actually talk. I'd like to think that they would sound something like Smog.
There you are, thief in the shadows.
I think the reason they scrapped it was because dinosaurs not being able to form conversations yet being vicious is kinda more terrifying, and they wanted something other than the T-Rex to stand out. Well, they succeeded, so well in fact that it's still to this day one of the most popular dinosaur villains out there, and it's almost as iconic as some others like the Land Before Time Sharptooth. Disney's Dinosaur revolved around the life of an iguanodon called Aladar who was raised by these lemurs, who look very similar to Zaboomafoo. He was then forced to join a herd to the nesting grounds after his home was nuked, where he then made some new friends and even hooked up. But throughout the journey there was one or two things that could have cut the movie short: the Carnotaurs. These guys actually show up really early in the movie. After some snot-nosed Parasaurolophus got too close, it sprung into action, but ignored the baby dinosaur. It went straight for the adults of the mixed herd. Unfortunately, a female Pachyrhinus was the chosen one and got mauled. They didn't even show the killing off screen like a lot of kid-friendly movies do. It's during this shot where we get to see just how big these things are too. I'm not sure if this is the same one that's shown later on during the movie, but it still is massive regardless. The very lowest estimates of these guys give them a length of 14 meters and 10 tons, with the highest that use actual calculations and comparison to Sue at 24 tons and more than 17 meters. I mean, it is very possible to just how large this guy is when compared to some of the other dinosaurs, and while charts aren't usually that accurate online, this one isn't bad and it's actually pretty decent. You can see just how large it is even when next to a Brachiosaurus. Even if we don't use the sauropod, we can still see just how big they are compared to the other characters. This thing towers over Kron, who's an iguanodon that weighs over 6 tons and is able to casually grab him and throw him more than 40 feet into a boulder. Me personally, just due to the scale of him next to Aladar, would place him around 50 meters or a little more and 13 tons. From what the movie showed us, these guys are the biggest and baddest things on the earth at the time. Everything else gives way to them, even a large pack of velociraptors. Despite the fact that most of these dinosaurs lived in different time periods, in reality, the fauna selection is pretty decent. Like some modern day predators, they don't appear to stay in a single location. Wherever their prey migrates, they follow not too far behind. Something like what we see wolves do to caribou, although not quite as far. As Kron says, they never move this far up north. So I guess they do follow the herds up to a certain distance, but not throughout the entire migration. However, the asteroids force them to travel further up north. The pair we see following the herds is a mating pair, I'm assuming, and I'm not too sure if there's real sexual dimorphism like in some raptors today when we're looking at the Carnotaurus, but I assume that the smaller one could have been the male, but I'm not too sure on that. For their size, they can move in complete silence during stealth mode. One walks up right behind Creto and yanks him into the darkness, leaving Bruton absolutely flabbergasted. If I was Bruton, I wouldn't even have to turn around. The moment I see the guy who was right beside me suddenly jump back, I'm taking off. They kill the other iguanodon really quickly too. I actually counted this. In 5 seconds or a little less, the Carno killed that iguanodon. I don't know if it actually even killed him, to be honest, but we do see one of the Carnotaurs tearing off chunks of flesh and eating it in the background. Like, damn, Disney. Part of me is hoping that the poor dude was killed before being eaten, but then again, with how quickly it was, there could be a chance that he was just pinned and eaten alive. Bruton didn't get away scot-free though. He had some serious wounds on him after he escaped. All that adrenaline would probably make him the fastest iguanodon out there, to be honest. To put into perspective on just how terrifying these things are to everything else around them, when Kron got word that they were close, he sent out a call and every single dinosaur got up and started marching. Even the ones that were sick, old and could barely move tried their best to move, including Baleen, despite her size. Even she knew one of these things could easily bring her down. Another terrifying thing about these guys is their extremely fast metabolism, because even with their size, an adult iguanodon should be enough for at least 2 days, but they shortly went back to hunt for something else to eat. But I guess it makes sense, especially with how fast they could run. I'd give them a top speed of 25 miles per hour at the bare minimum, to be honest, because in the movie it was easily able to catch up to a Paki who could gallop and run faster than its real life counterpart, who likely topped out at around 50 miles per hour. One was able to catch up to Kron and even outclimb him, despite Kron being a bull iguanodon in his prime. That's another thing about the movie. It seems that when iguanodon reach their peak forms, they get a little horn on their snout, like Bruton and Kron. Don't know why they did that, but it looks cool regardless. Anyway, Kron was a quadruped, so he had extra grip and balance to climb up the cliff, but this demon was able to shoot up that cliff really fast and was catching up to him, even though he had a head start, straight up jumping from ledge to ledge like a Naruto character. That honestly is an unnerving concept. I was really good at running in my high school, and when I attempted to jump from rock to rock on this hill we went for on a school trip, I couldn't make it that far. My knees almost gave out. So for an animal that's bigger than the largest T-Rex ever found to do that without showing any signs of exhaustion is another reason why Disney back then still can't be beat. With how chunky they are, it's no surprise that they could pick up things much heavier than them. But this is ridiculous. Why is this thing able to grab an African-sized animal by the back and throw it more than 40 feet without any resistance whatsoever? You know how you'd show some levels of effort while lifting something heavy? Well, this thing didn't. They do this throughout the entire movie, to be honest. In most cases, they just grab Iguanodon and throw it to the floor and kill it. Aladar only survived because Bruton sacrificed himself and he was the main character. They have good ramming strength too. The one at the end just swung his head and pushed Kron's sister aside, and in the most petty act that makes me laugh every time, sends Aldar flying with his tail. The reason it makes me laugh is because I could imagine this thing saying let's go band for band in a deep voice. Because when Aldar slaps this thing with its tail, it could have bit him or something else, but instead it just gave a side eye and hit Aldar with its tail to show the power difference. They're solid when it comes to durability too. One survived more than 20 tons of debris falling on it from a cave ceiling, and that's being conservative. The one that did die was in the center, so it took most of the weight, but the one that did live still was hit pretty hard. It does limp for a bit after leaving the cave, but not too long after is able to run and jump again as though nothing happened. So either this thing has insane healing abilities or it's just high off some prehistoric crack. Eventually it does end up dying from a fall that would kill any real theropod and possibly even one from the Jurassic franchise. Despite them being absolute menaces with that it's on sight attitude, what I love most about these guys, which makes them stand out from most dinosaur villains, is their behavior. They actually act like real animals. Sure, they may not look the part, but they sure do act it. And just because they act like real animals doesn't mean that they're less terrifying or not as menacing, because real animals can be just as brutal. There was a tigress that killed more than 400 people in India, a bear that killed a bunch of people in Japan, and Gustav, whose death count could be close to 1,000. So yeah, real life animals can also be menaces depending on the individual. For one, they don't kill for sport or for pleasure, they strictly kill to stay alive. The only reason they seem to eat so frequently is due to their metabolism and large size, since a theropod of that weight would require copious amounts of meat just to function. They don't really hold a significant grudge either or try to hurt themselves further for the sake of killing. When the one that survived the cave collapse got up, it didn't go after Aldar. It just counted its loss and went outside. And in the end, it doesn't specifically pick out Aldar, it focused on Kron the entire time. The only reason it engaged with Aldar was because he was being a nuisance and needed to be put down if he was to get to Kron. Then there was the herd standing their ground scene, which made some of the larger YouTubers in this field call them cowards. Again, I'm not trying to start anything, I'm just giving my thoughts. The Carnotaurus was not a coward, it was behaving like any normal predator. What was it supposed to do, take on hundreds of horn and bone just to get heavily injured without food or even killed? No, it backed off and instead went for Kron because he was isolated and had no one else to back him up, which is something almost every predator looks for when selecting prey today. It even does a mock charge to try and disperse the herd so it could scatter and expose the weak and the sick. So if any of you calling the Carnotaurus a coward, then you're also calling a lion or a tiger a coward, because any male lion, even the biggest and most brave, would more often than not back up if they ever saw a herd of cave buffalo moving towards them. And why? Not because they're cowards, it's better to retreat hungry than risk taking on the entire herd and getting killed. However, even though it's not that common, a male lion could take down a buffalo if it's isolated and doesn't have a herd for backup, which is what the Carnotaurus did. So despite them behaving like actual predators, these things were pretty terrifying. I mean, if you're so feared to the point where the largest things that walk the earth are scared of you, then it's a given that you have black Air Force energy. and Disney really did enhance this, from showing the direct kills on screen and showing one of them tearing the flesh from another dinosaur and eating it in the background. Not to mention the bloodied bodies shown by different characters. I think it would have been cool if they could have talked like what was originally planned, but I think the no dialogue Carnos worked just as well. It might be even more terrifying depending on who you ask. Regardless, the entire species was feared by everything else at the time, and who knows what these things could kill. Based on their size and them peering up, they likely took down sauropods as well. That just about does it for this video, guys. What do you think? Were the Carnos not that scary, or did they actually make you uneasy when you first saw them as a kid? Let me know in the comments. That's all for now. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.